Creating successful SEO content isn't hard if you follow a proven formula. That's what I'm going to show you today. I use the HVC formula for every single SEO content asset I create. It's so powerful that you'll never look at your SEO content the same after I show you. But before we jump in, please like this video right now and leave a comment below saying, I'm ready, letting me know that you're ready to learn this formula that I've never shared publicly. So the first step of this process is to find a qualified keyword. And I have several videos that can help you find the right keywords on my channel, but the best way to find keywords quickly is to analyze your competitors. So you can use paid tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush, or you can use a free tool like Neil Patel's Backlink Analyzer to find these ideas. So now let me show you the first stage of the HVC formula. So the first part of this formula is what I call the hook. Your SEO content success is largely dependent on whether or not people actually consume your content. Google's algorithm analyzes user behavior to determine the quality of your content. For example, if your SEO content asset hits the first page, Google is going to measure your organic CTR for your result. If it's low relative to the competitors and for the position that you're in, your rankings might decline. But let's say your CTR is average, but a high percentage of people are hitting the back button on their browser and returning back to Google search results. This is known as pogo sticking, and there's some evidence that it can negatively impact your page's performance because it's an indication that the searcher wasn't satisfied with the result and therefore had to return to the SERPs for more information. Now, there are many reasons why a searcher may behave this way, but one of the biggest factors impacting their behavior is your headline. So when I say hook, I'm referring to two elements in your SEO content. The first is your headline. Did you know that 80% of internet users don't read past the headline? That's why it's absolutely fundamental that you use the right words in your headlines. Think of your headline as your one shot at persuading a user to read the rest of your content.
I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot.
Your headline is your USP for your content. Fortunately, you don't need to be Frank Kern to create persuasive headlines. You just need to follow some proven frameworks. So here are several headline frameworks you can use to hook your users into your content. The first is what I call the Guinea Pig Method. So the Guinea Pig Method is essentially using your own money or time or resources to create a unique piece of content. We spent $1 million on link building services between me and Chris and a few other people, and we did it to try to find out what the best link building services were. So we essentially were the guinea pig for this experiment. And so if you can think of any way where you can become the guinea pig in your industry, it becomes very attractive and it becomes very unique because in reality, no one is going to be able to emulate something that you've actually done that's unique in some way. Of course, they could spend the same amount of money, but in reality, whoever comes up with the idea first is always going to get the most leverage and the most momentum. So this is a really exciting method that I love to use. And it doesn't just work with blog content. You can actually also do it with YouTube content as well. So if you look at Mr. Beast, he is a perfect example of someone that uses what I call the guinea pig method all the time. The second type of hook you can use are ultimate guides. So you're probably sick of hearing about ultimate guides at this point, but the truth is they work. And so here's a really good example from EasyBib, and they created a huge guide on citing and writing in APA format. Now, it isn't the most exciting piece of content you'll ever see, but it certainly satisfies the intent for their target keyword, and it gives the user the information that they actually need to succeed for whatever problem they're trying to solve here. And so then, as you can see, this piece of content has attracted a ton of links, and it is performing extremely well for its target keywords. And so that is because it has a decent hook, which explains exactly what the user is going to get when they read it. And then also the content itself is actually really good and well written, well organized. It has unique graphics. So there are plenty of good reasons why this piece of content has attracted links. And ultimately, because of the links that it's gotten, it's really driven a lot of organic search traffic. The third hook is name dropping. So the name dropping method is very simple. You're just going to use a well-known name in whatever industry you're going after as leverage in your headline. So of course, pretty much everyone knows what Netflix is. And so what Vulture is doing here is they're using Netflix's name to drive engagement and drive interest. So you can tell that, this is using actually a combination of the few other frameworks I'll be showing you because it's a list post, but they are using Netflix as a name drop. And so this is a really powerful way to drive interest. And so you can tell, as you scroll down through this, I'm not going to do a deep analysis, but it's a good piece of content, not anything extraordinary. But look at how it's performing. It already has 119 referring domains, and its traffic is absolutely ridiculous. So it's because this piece of content likely generates a lot of user engagement. It's of course getting links, and it's probably getting a lot of traction on social media too. So it's really got a lot of positive signals going for it. But really the catalyst for all of this is the fact that they name dropped, and they used a name that a lot of people know. The fourth hook are lists. So it's no secret that list posts are incredibly effective for getting users to engage with their content and getting them to read your content. But what I really love about this example is that it's actually leveraging the principles I've already explained. So of course it's a list post in 6 steps, but it's also using the Guinea Pig method because it is a case study like piece of content, and it's also using the name dropping method by using Craigslist. So it's combining these 3 together. And what you'll notice with this headline and the previous ones and the ones I'm about to show you, they're really using all these methods in combination to create powerful headlines. And so as you can tell, this post hasn't generated a ton of links, but it is already performing really well from an organic search standpoint. The fifth hook are versus posts. So the next type of headline that attracts a lot of interest and engagement are versus posts. And so everyone wants to see battles, everyone wants to see big timers against each other. And so that's always an exciting topic. So you can leverage this particular principle in pretty much any industry. And so as you can tell in this example, this was a really huge deal. Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor. Everyone was talking about this, but as you can tell, this particular headline framework works really, really well. And you can tell from the signals itself, 26 million views. And if we look at the link signals as well, we have 317 referring domains, and then look at the traffic. It's honestly just ridiculous. So that's because these types of posts work really well. But also keep in mind, just doing versus on its own isn't going to work. You need to also use the name dropping method by leveraging powerful names or industry authorities all in one headline. The sixth hook is a question. Now, question headlines do really well because of what I explained earlier in this video, which is it creates open loops in your mind. So naturally, as humans, whenever a question is asked, we need to find the answer to whatever that question is. So whenever you just leave an open loop like that, the user's naturally going to want to figure out an answer to whatever question you asked. Even if it's not a particularly important question, they still need to close that loop in their mind. And so that's why question headlines work really well. So you can tell from this one that it's going to drive, and of course BuzzFeed is really, really good at headlines. So as a side note, you should analyze what they're doing because they do things really well. But you can tell it has 281 comments. It likely has a lot of social shares, but let's look at its link profile. It has 57 referring domains, which isn't anything super exciting, but its organic search traffic is pretty decent. It looks like it's fallen a little bit, but the point here is that this type of headline works really, really well. So you should definitely take advantage of question-like headlines from time to time, but definitely don't overuse it. And the seventh hook is what I like to call the why hook. So any type of headline that uses why in it can be very effective because whenever you use the word why, it's an implication that you have an opinion about something. And so you can tell from this headline, why the Web 3.0 matters and you should know about it. And so what the author is doing is saying, hey, this is really, really important, so you need to figure it out. And of course, this is the author's opinion because only you can decide what matters to you. But what it does is it sparks a little bit of controversy in your mind and it makes you want to figure out why it actually matters. And so you can tell that this post is done really, really well. It has 486 referring domains and it has some solid organic search traffic as well. So I definitely recommend using this type of headline as well from time to time. And then there's one bonus, and that's stacking all of these hooks into one. So now I want to show you one headline where it's actually leveraging all the principles that we discussed. So I don't care about Michael Moore, I don't care about Donald Trump. I literally don't care about politics at all. I think it's a huge waste of time and effort to get all riled up about that stuff. But this headline, if we just remove all political bias from it, is actually a really good headline. This is a really good angle. So 5 reasons why. So he's using the why principle. 5, he's using the list principle. He's also using Trump will win. So Trump, of course, is a well-known name. I think pretty much everyone in the world knows who Donald Trump is. And then also Michael Moore, who's also very well known. So it's a double whammy here. And so this is just a really powerful headline. And you know that this is going to drive a lot of controversy for whatever side is either happy about it or angry about it. But this is a very, very powerful headline and a very powerful positioning to be put in. And even the image itself, like, if you're a Democrat, this image may infuriate you. If you're a Republican, it may excite you. So it's just a very powerful execution of content. And so Michael Moore knows how to get people fired up about things. That's really what he specializes in. So definitely model things like this. And then if we look at the performance, it has over 2,000 referring domains and it's ranking for over 17,000 organic keywords. And so it is doing extremely well. And the biggest catalyst for this performance is going to be the headline, because that's going to be what drives that interest and engagement and whatever controversy this may cause as well. So now that you know some powerful headline frameworks, it's time to take action. I always write at least 10 possible headlines for every single SEO content asset I create. Then I run those headlines through AM Institute's Headline Analyzer tool. You can eliminate most of your ideas with this tool alone, but that said, don't live and die by this tool. It's supplemental to your efforts, but it isn't always right. The good news about creating headlines for SEO content is that it isn't final. You can test your headlines and iterate on them. For example, if a page's organic CTR is low, then you can modify the headline and see if it improves. I recommend using Google Search Console and heat map technology like Hotjar to analyze and test your headlines. So as I mentioned before, your headline is just the first piece of the hook equation. The second part is your intro. It's important that your primary keywords show up in the first couple sentences of your intro, but all other space should be used to persuade the reader to consume the rest of your content. So here are a few frameworks to use. Number 1 is what I like to call the strong statement. So one technique you'll see that I use quite often is the strong statement. So if you go to any of my blog posts, you'll see that I often will just make a statement to start this blog post. So for example, I say backlinks are the nitrous of every successful SEO campaign. So my goal there is to make a very clear argument right out of the gate. And I'm basically saying that you need to get backlinks and they're super important if you want to get better SEO results. And so if you were someone that agreed with that, you would want to continue reading because it will confirm your position, which is also known as confirmation bias. But if you're someone who doesn't agree with that, you're also going to want to read because you're going to see if any of the information there is going to conflict with your current belief system. So that is why making strong statements are so powerful, because you're hitting both sides of the opinion scale. Number 2 is to use questions and data. So just like in your headlines, another method I love to use is just to simply ask a question right out of the gate. And so the question here is, what's the fastest way to learn SEO? Well, if someone lands on this page after searching SEO, they likely have that question in their mind. So I'm just confirming that they're on the right page. And then I add this part where I say, I asked 130 real SEO experts to find out. So I added a number or a piece of data to make this more interesting and unique. Now just remember, when you're asking a question, you're creating an open loop, and that incentivizes the user to want to actually consume the content because they want to get that loop closed. The third method is to leverage an authority within your industry. And one other method, which I've used in some other industries, but I can't obviously show those websites, so I just wanted to give you an example of what that's like, is leveraging someone else's authority to make a point for yourself. So as you can tell right here in this example, I just say, according to Rand Fishkin, who, if you don't know who he is, he was the former founder and CEO of Moz, SEO is only going to get harder. And so what I'm doing is I'm leveraging someone's name, I'm name dropping like we did in the headlines earlier, and then I'm making a strong statement, and then I say here's why. So this essentially is combining all of the other elements I've explained into one. I'm name dropping, I'm doing a strong statement, and I'm creating an open loop. And the fourth method is to use stories. Now, one other method that can be really, really powerful is to inject a relevant story. So as you can tell from this post, I talk about PBNs generally here, but then I immediately get into a story about how I used to use PBNs. And what I'm doing is I'm building rapport with the user and I'm helping relate to them and their situation. And stories are absolutely the best way to persuade. And so if you have a story that is relevant to your primary keyword, you should definitely take advantage of it and use it and craft it in a way that's going to make your content far more engaging, especially in the beginning of the content in the introduction section. Now, the key to nailing your intro is to create as many open loops as possible. For example, if you rewind this video, you'll see that I injected a simple open loop. Watch this clip. So when I say hook, I'm referring to two elements in your SEO content. The first is your headline. Did you know that 80% of internet users don't read past the headline? Did you catch the open loop? Well, I told you that there are going to be two elements of the hook, but I only told you about the first one. Use these types of open loops in all of the content you create online. Now you understand how to craft the perfect hook for your content. And if you're still watching this, awesome job, because I'm going to show you the V portion of this equation. But before I do, write me a comment below saying finisher, because you're going to finish the rest of the video and learn the rest of this powerful content creation formula. So the next part of the HVC formula is value. This is the most complex part of the process, but there is really only one high-level strategy that you need to understand. Your goal with all of your SEO content should be to create something different than what currently exists. Don't try to be better. Focus on finding a unique angle for the target keyword and then create something awesome. Trust me, this is much easier and more effective. It's always better to be first by creating something unique. You also have to understand that how your SEO content is perceived is influenced by your brand's authority and social proof. That's why you should always have your content written by a subject matter expert and you incorporate elements of social proof. For example, if the post has a decent amount of social shares, you should show the number. If you have some unique data that validates any of the points you're making, then use it. If you can get an authoritative figure to contribute a small quote for your content, do it. Also, you need to work to drive engagement on your content. This will push the social proof element even more, which brings me to the last part of the HVC formula. The last part of the HVC formula is CTA, or call to action. And I know this is really an acronym within an acronym, but bear with me. So every piece of SEO content you create should have at least one primary CTA. Now, what type of CTA you use will depend on the nature of the content. For example, if you're targeting an informational top of the funnel keyword, the CTA should either be a call to share the content, engage with the content, or to subscribe for a free lead magnet. It almost never makes sense to try to sell a reader on an informational type of asset. The other important part of this process is to add CTAs throughout your SEO content. Don't just drop one at the end, because most people won't make it that far. You should have micro CTAs throughout your content. Like in this video, I've asked you a few times to leave a comment and like the video. So if you haven't done that already, please do. Don't be scared to ask someone to engage with your content. So that's all you need to know about the HVC formula. Memorize this formula and think about it every single time you create a new piece of content. If you enjoyed this video, please like it now and comment below with what HVC stands for, and then tell me what you think about it. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe because I have some really cool content coming out soon. I'll see you soon, and thank you so much for watching.